rally champion, and Pete Marsh in the diesel-powered VW Golf TDI running under the Sasol banner. Also soldiering along among the midfielders were Doug Kemsley and Steve Grobler in the top car Fuchs BMW, with local crews Stephen van Dijk and Mark Pim now running at the head of Class N2 in the Toyota Corolla. On the menu, technical personnel were preoccupied at a service point with fitting the special lights required for rallying in the dark. Behind rally leaders Jan Harvig and Doug Judd, dust was going to be a major problem for crews, but at this stage of proceedings, Zimbabwean teams were more than happy with their lot. Former FIA African Rally champion Abe Smith was thoroughly enjoying South African conditions.
It's really interesting because it's nice and tight, the roads are narrow. If you go off, you're going to have a problem, so I think we just got to take it easy for the moment.
And how's the diesel been performing down here?
Oh yeah, we're very happy with it. It's just so reliable, and you know, it's we're not going to keep up with the petrol guys, but you know, it won't be long before we're there. We're developing the car, and you know, I'm happy enough the way it's gone so far.
A colourful sunset, plenty of spectators along the route, and with darkness rapidly approaching, rally leaders Jan Harvig and Doug Judd were in full cry in the Sasol VW Golf 4. Harvig and Judd were comfortable leaders with the overnight halt approaching, but there was concern in the VW camp with the VW Golf's engine consistently misfiring. Technicians were battling to find the cause of the misfire, but in the gathering gloom, dust was a major problem for those behind the Sasol Golf. And Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon dropped time through poor visibility, with the Ford Escort also suffering from a mysterious misfire. After battling for most of the day to stay in touch with the Harvig Judd VW Golf, local heroes Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson dropped more than a minute on the rally leaders in the first of the night stages. With the dealer team Toyota Corolla having a clean run, it was a little frustrating for the Western Cape crew. They were not the only ones battling in the dust, and Emmanuel Cato and Peter Stone were also finding the big Toyota Celica a handful in the tighter sections of the route. Although running fifth on the road, Zambian Satwan Singh and Mtumbi Goma had dropped down the pecking order to be on the fringes of the top 10 in the turbocharged Subaru Impreza. The pair were a source of frustration for the quicker Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the Team Total Toyota Corolla, with a differential problem and added source of worry for the KwaZulu-Natal crew. There was also a great deal of local support for Jean-Pierre Damso and Johan Klaassen in the Team Total Toyota Corolla, but they were still dropping time to the Damso Senior, Hodgson and Lawrence Paisley combinations in Class A6. The Namibian pair of Reichardt Himmel and Adolf Buerters were still going along without any problems, with the ex-Damso Toyota Conquest 4x4 proving to be as reliable as ever. Crews further back in the field were now seriously hampered by a dust problem, but Skultberger and Martin Buerter had worked their way into the top 5 after an impressive performance. Barry Grobler and Mike Burrows in the Sasol VW Golf were grinding out a result in their normal fashion, with Zimbabweans Hannes Kruger and Tony Rowley also on the fringes of the top 10 in another Toyota Corolla. Behind them and continuing to match the pace of the slower Group A cars were Hannes Grobler and Brian Duncan in the Team Total Bridgestone Nissan Sentra. Grobler and Duncan were in complete charge and consistently taking time off the likes of Singh and Goma. At the final service point of the day, the Sasol VW Golf Camp decided on a concerted effort to try and find the misfire that was worrying the team. Off came the tappet cover from the Golf motor, with newly appointed VW Motorsport manager Johan Evertser not too concerned with what the engine boffins discovered.
Well, we basically just checked the motor to make sure that everything is okay. Valve clearances are fine, so it's not too great a concern, but you know, it's like with anything, the rally only ends at the finish, and it's just a precautionary check.
The Sasol VW squad were not the only ones with problems. The Lawrence Paisley Team Total Toyota Corolla needed a gearbox change, with Lawrence and service crew working against time to get the job done before they faced incurring lateness penalties. For rally crews, this sort of situation is a character builder, and you can tell your local garage they managed to get the job done in under 30 minutes.
I've got to do it. The diff is gone. These last 3 stages was bad. You put it in the reverse now, it's really bad. So I have to change it. I'll never make tomorrow. That's it.
Over in the Piazza Muso camp, there was good news.
You've had a bit of a disastrous second half of the rally.
Yeah, we thought it was a misfire earlier in the day, but then we realized it was fuel starvation problems. There's a little filter inside the tank, and I think that was blocked. So we blew it backwards, cleared it out, and the last two stages we're back on the pace. Took time off surge and that, so yeah, we're happy now. Tomorrow we can go for the chase.
Up and down the service park, technical crews were working away at mechanical problems, some of them more serious than others. But for most of the drivers and co-drivers, dust in the night stages was the major bugbear.
We've been battling at night with the dust. You know, even the 3-minute gaps now, we're still shooting a lot in the dust. But I mean, it's the same for everybody, so really, I mean, we're all in the same boat. And the stages are pretty rough. You know, pretty what we used to back home in Zimbabwe, so, you know, we're used to those kind of conditions anyway.
Quick valet services were also in evidence in the service park, and more than happy with their day's work were Class N2 leaders Stefan van Dijk and Mark Pim.
It was very rough, and it looked like Dean and Kobus picked up some problems, and I mean, that's the way it goes, and it's been very well for us, and we're leading, I think, about 2.5 minutes now.
It had been a day of trials and tribulations for Kobus Roos and Neil Fourie in the SALive.com Toyota Corolla and reigning Class N2 champions Dean Sanders and Graham Hooper. The final special stage of the day produced more headaches for Roos and Fourie.
We're just changing the caliper. On the last stage we had a flat wheel and it demolished our complete rear caliper, which is the second time today on the back here. So we're just changing it. Just need to bleed the brakes quickly again to get some brakes, but then we'll go again.
Cape Town by night, and a welcome respite for crews with Jan Habig and Doug Judge more than 3 minutes ahead of Damso Hodgson at the end of day one. A great battle had developed between Piazza Musso, Haddon and Lawrence Paisley, and a phenomenal performance from Grobler Duncan in 6th overall. 7th and the first of the internationals were Cato and Stone. Taking a leaf out of the off-road racing book, there was an early start for competitors and service crews on day 2 of the Total Rally of South Africa. Long before sunrise, and with most people still warmly tucked up in beds, crews and the technical boffins were preparing for what was going to be another long day. For some crews, there were tactical considerations to be discussed, while service crews attended to the last-minute little adjustments to machinery that had taken a battering on day 1. With important points up for grabs in both the South African and FIA African Rally Championships, nothing was being left to chance during the early morning preparations. Where the day 2 route was concerned, crew were heading for Bellville, Paarl and Franschhoek before heading back to the Cape Town finish via Caledon, Botrivier, Grabouw and Khayelitsha. The sun was just starting to appear over the mountains when the first special stage of the day got underway. Overnight leaders Jan Habig and Doug Judge were first on the road in the Sasol VW Golf, with the engine note sounding a little rough. The early morning start didn't deter hardy rally enthusiasts, with large crowds lining the route at prime spectator points. It was obvious that all was not well with the rally leaders, but at the end of the special stage they still held a lead of nearly 3 minutes over local favourites Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson. The dealer team Toyota Corolla was sounding crisp in the early morning air, with the pair off to a flying start. Behind Damso and Hodgson, battle was resumed between Paolo Piazza Musso and Nick Haddon in the Ford Escort and the Team Total Toyota Corolla of Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley. Only half a minute separated the two crews at the overnight halt, and this was a scrap that offered plenty of potential. The Ford and the Toyota were being chased by Skulkberger and Martin Buerter in the Subaru Impreza, with the pair intent on getting their FIA African Rally Championship campaign back on an even keel. The 4x4 turbocharged Subaru was impressive, but even more impressive was the display of Group N leaders Hannes Grobler and Brian Duncan, who were still running ahead of a cluster of Group A cars in the standard Team Total Bridgestone Nissan Sentra. As was to be expected in the fairest Cape of them all, the Total Rally of South Africa was never short on impressive scenery and Cape Dutch architecture. Rally crews don't get much time to admire the scenery or the local architecture, but Special Stage 9 produced plenty of early Day 2 drama. Reigning South African champions Jan Habig and Doug Judge went into the Cape event with 2 wins in 2 events under their belts, but the Sasol VW Golf 4 was not sounding well. The golf finally expired on Jan Harvig and Doug Judd, handing the South African champions their first non-finish in 19 successive events. The demise of Harvig and Judd handed Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson the lead in the dealer team Toyota Corolla, running in Class A6 for 1,60 litre cars. With Special Stage 9 also claiming the Ford Escort of Paolo Piazzamusso and Nick Hadden, the KwaZulu-Natal pair of Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley found themselves moving from 4th to 2nd, with 2 Class A6 cars running at the front of the rally. Since the adoption of the Group A and Group N regulations in South Africa, no Class A6 car has ever won a national championship event, and a little history was perhaps in the making. The special stage adjacent to the Taal Monument in Paarl is always a magnet for Cape Rally enthusiasts. And with local favourites Damso and Hodgson now leading the rally, there was a festive atmosphere among the crowd. Damso and Hodgson know Cape Rally roads like the back of their hands, and the pair had an advantage of around 3 minutes over Lawrence and Paisley. Unless you want to fall off a mountain, going off the road on stages like this is not recommended. But Lawrence and Paisley were going well, after fitting a new gearbox to the Team Total Toyota Corolla at the final service point prior to the overnight stop. The KwaZulu-Natal pair have now added reliability to pace, and prior to the Total Rally of South Africa, picked up 3rd places on both the Tour Natal on home soil and the SA Live.com rally in Gauteng. Behind the two Toyotas, the Skalkberger and Martin Botha combination were now 4th in the Subaru Impreza, but had lost 3rd gear. There were giveaways for the crowd from the SA Live.com commentary team, and it all added to the festivities, while crews got on with the job of rallying. Group N leaders, Anna Strobler and Brian Duncan, had also picked up a place or two in what was turning into an unbelievable drive with Emmanuel Cato and Peter Stone, the first of the international crews in the Toyota Celica GT4. They occasionally found the Celica a bit of a handful, but after a relatively quiet day one, were starting to pick up the pace in a car built to measure for marathon events like the Safari Rally in Kenya. The demise of Harvig and Judd and the day one retirement of Chad van der Walt and Cindy Harding now left Barry Throbler and Mike Burrows carrying the Sasol VW flag in Class A8. The pair were going along steadily and looking to pick up valuable SA Rally Championship points. Also picking up the pace a little were Namibians Reichardt Himmel and Adolf Buertes in the ex-Damso Toyota Conquest 4x4. By running in Class S20, the pair were not eligible for FIA African Rally Championship points, but Zambians Satwan Singh and Mtumi Goma in the ex-McRae Subaru Impreza were now 2nd to Berger and Botha in the race for African Championship points. Among the spectators at the Paarl stage were Serge Damso's wife and daughter, and they looked quite happy at the way the event was panning out. Also happy with proceedings so far were local crews Stefan van Dijk and Mark Pim, who were leading Class N2 in a Toyota Corolla in another impressive performance. It was great fun for the spectators, and enjoying themselves in the thick of the action were Zimbabweans Hannes Kruger and Tony Rowley. A steady drive in the Castrol auto-equipped Toyota Corolla had taken them to the fringes of the overall top 10. Stay tuned. At the Paarl Service Park, it was business as usual in the Toyota camp.